We're joined by the two-time Attorney General for the United States, Bill Barr. Mr. Attorney General, thank you for joining us. If there's an allegation that documents were declassified, or if there's an allegation that evidence was planted during a search, I mean, it's reasonable and to be expected that a judge is going to say, okay, which ones, right?
Right. It'll be put to the proof. But, you know, I actually think that the classification thing is, as the court itself said, the 11th Circuit said in overruling the district court judge, that it's a red herring because nothing really depends on the classification of the documents. It doesn't affect the potential charges that would be made against Trump. But I think it shows that, as you say, at some point in these judicial proceedings, it becomes time for proof. And I've said all along that this case really hinges on two things. How sensitive were the documents, whether they're classified or not, and I think they're obviously classified, and I don't think they were declassified. How sensitive were they? And then second, what is the government's evidence of shenanigans, of deceit, of misleading the government? And as you know better than anyone else, there's sort of two questions. One, does the department already, or will they soon have enough evidence that they could justify an indictment under the principles of federal prosecution? But then there's a further question, which is, in the circumstances of this case, would it be prudent as an exercise of discretion to bring charges against the former president? I think there are reasons why they might not bring charges, and I hope they don't eventually bring charges against the president. But I think they're probably pretty close to having at least an evidentiary basis to charge.
All right, I think you put your finger on something, Mr. Attorney General. There's a lot of talk about the classification of these documents, but the government's position, at least now, is that the former president was not lawfully in possession of these documents regardless of their classification. Is that a fair summary?
That's right. That's right. And I think Judge Deary suggested the same thing, and the 11th Circuit suggested the same thing. It doesn't become his personal property simply because it's declassified. If it's declassified, it's still the government's. And charges of mishandling sensitive information are based on it being so-called national defense information. It doesn't have to be classified.
All right, I want to switch gears. I want to ask you two questions, because I got the two-time former Attorney General. Number one, about what's going on with the New York Attorney General. And then also, I'd love for you to weigh in on the border, because I know you talked about it when it was your job to enforce the laws. I want to give you a chance to do it tonight.
Okay. On the border now, Trey?
Whatever order you want. I mean, there's a New York Attorney General action. If you want to comment on that, that's great.
Well, yeah.
Otherwise, go to the border.
Well, you know, as I said, I think the New York Attorney General action was a political hit job. The essence of that case is that the Trump organization borrowed a lot of money. And in connection with that, to facilitate it, Donald Trump as an individual gave his personal financial statements in guaranteeing that loan. And the claim is that he misvalued his assets. And I think the claim against Trump is fairly weak, but what tells me that this is a political hit job is the effort to drag in all the children. They're not responsible for the personal financial statement of Donald J. Trump. They're allowed to rely on the experts that prepared that, and so I think it's a case of overreach. On the border, the federal government has the unique responsibility of protecting our borders. Only the federal government really can do that effectively, and here they've entirely abdicated that responsibility and left the states holding the bag. And, you know, there's this case in Arizona, I think you're aware of it, which suggested the states only have a limited ability to take action to enforce immigration laws. And I think we should be pushing that envelope. And I would like to see the states on the border, Texas and Arizona, take a shot at more enforcement action that's consistent with federal statute, not enforcing something that's different than the federal law, but enforcing in a way that's consistent with federal law, and in a situation where there's a complete abdication of responsibility.
Former two-time, I think only two people can say that, two-time Attorney General for the United States of America, Bill Barr. Thank you so much for joining us on a Sunday night.
Hi, everyone. I'm Brian Kilmeade. I want you to do me a favor. I want you to click to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page. This is the only way that I know for sure that you're not going to miss any great commentary, any great news bites, any great interviews coming your way on Fox. You can get it all here on YouTube. So subscribe right now.